Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Q1, Q2 webinar. We did not have the webinar last quarter because of all the changes going on, so we're going to try to cover everything that happened in the first half of the year and answer questions that were provided to us both previously and new ones that came in the last few days. So here's our agenda for today. First thing is an update on the Securrency account. We've had some good news over the last week or two. Securrency has an investor named Wisdom Tree. Wisdom Tree has agreed to put in $5 million into Securrency as long as Securrency can raise an additional $10 million. That sounds daunting, but the good news is Wisdom Tree is a financial firm. They have a lot of contacts, a lot of investors. They're going to assist Securrency in that fundraising. It's expected to take between 60 and 90 days to close. And to make us a little more secure, Wisdom Tree has provided Securrency, or actually they paid us directly $500,000 towards the next 3 months worth of work. So that shows that Wisdom Tree is not just saying they'll put in money, but they're actually putting in money to help us pay our bills and continue to provide the work. And I believe that Securrency will raise the money. And once that happens, they'll be looking to expand the team, not up to the size it was before, but maybe from the 13 people we have now, maybe to 20, 30, maybe as many as 40. It's unclear right now, but definitely good news, and that's going in the right direction. On Xenial, a lot of updates there. Chris Siefkin was with us for a few days this week. He held an all-hands meeting for the Xenial team. He said that the things have really turned around in the last few weeks. Xenial's future was uncertain, but then the CEO, whose name is Jeff Sloan, put his foot down and said, Xenial is our POS of the future. He opened up funding, quite significant amount of funding through the end of the year to complete 144 gaps, to close 144 gaps. That doesn't mean that there's some horrible thing that happens at the end of the year. It's just the way big companies fund things. They allocate funds on a quarterly or a half yearly or sometimes a yearly basis. In this case, it's more than a half a year that he allocated. The other thing that's happening is there's now 4 different groups within Global Payments, the parent company of Xenial, 4 different groups that we're working with. The ACE team has been split off, and they are in a very successful market. That team is, expected to grow, and everything's going great there. We have 7 people on another group that supports the Heartland restaurant product. Then we have SciComm. We're hiring people for the SciComm team. We have some PHP developers we're hiring, some QA, as well as some other .NET and C++ developers. And then the Xenial project, we have around 119, 120 people. There's no plans to make any cuts there. And in fact, we may end up adding a few people here and there as needed. So things are going pretty well there. And I'm pretty happy that we were able to stabilize that. So business development is a big theme that you'll hear throughout this presentation today, and it's something that we're spending a lot of time and effort working on. But first, let's talk about new clients that have started in the last couple of months. Invenium, probably, I think about 3 months ago, we started working with them. They're a fintech startup. We have about 12 people on the project right now. They're in a very interesting and exciting space. A lot of blockchain is great, but this in the financial industry. But they're searching, and a lot of companies are searching for ways to utilize it. Invenium has a way that makes sense to them and to their supporters, and we're looking for great things from that company. CoinSquare was actually an introduction that we received from Securrency. We have 2 projects that started with them in the last, I'm saying 30 days. they're trying to figure out the best way to work with an outsourced company. They've never worked with any before, so they picked two projects. One is called CoinSquare X. That's a larger project where we're doing some of the front end work, and then they're doing the back end work and some of the other front end work. So we're kind of integrating our people into their project. Second one is called CoinSquare Loans. It's more of a standalone project that we're providing a range of services, including BA and QA and project management and development. Right now we have 4 people on the project. I think it's about 8 people. Once we get some additional people hired, we'll have 8 people working on it. So this is the type of client that we're looking for in the future. They're a startup, but they're a well-funded startup. They have probably 50 or more technical people in their company, but they have more projects than they have people, and they're in a market that's difficult to hire people, which is Toronto. And because they're technical, we're able to communicate with them well. We expect that if things go well, we could have 15 to 20, maybe 25 people over the next year working on this project. This is the type of project that we'd like to have more of at DevPro. API Jet is a company based in Seattle. They have, I think, 19 technical people in their office, and they are starting a project with us of about 5 people. They're in another difficult market to hire people. So we expect that if we do well on this project, if they have other things, instead of hiring locally, they'll look to hire us. This could be maybe 10 people over the next year. So business development in general, we are really starting to put a lot of effort behind it right now. Anastasia Chechina is going to lead this department in addition to working on DevPro Talent, but the majority of her time will be spent on business development. I'll tell you about some of the things that we're actually actively doing right now. So we have a company called Sapper Consulting that's doing email marketing campaigns for us. We've also selected, but haven't signed the contract yet, with a lead generation vendor. That vendor does outbound telemarketing. They'll be having one full-time person calling a list between a list that they provide and a list that we generate, to call and try to set appointments. Building the sales team. The sales team will include Anastasia, and we have Roman, who also worked on DevPro Talent, that'll be working most of his time on DevPro business development. And we'll have 3 researchers that'll help us come up with lead generation lists and other type of marketing materials. We're updating our company branding. We've hired an agency to do that, and we've also updated our website. If you haven't taken a look at the website recently, take a look. It's completely different from what we had a few years ago, or for the first several years of our company. So DevPro Talent, those of you who don't know what it is a division of DevPro that focuses on helping U.S. companies hire local employees or contractors. We have 16 people working on the project right now. We have several companies in the U.S. that have partnered with us. They have open jobs that they need help sourcing candidates, and that's what we're doing. They'll give us a job description, and we, through all the various methods, we find appropriate people. We contact them and set up, find out if they're interested in the job, and then help set up the interviews. So that's what DevPro Talent is working on. So DevPro locations, as you know, we have 3 locations in Ukraine. Our Kiev office is going to be moving before September. We're going to look for a place that is geographically desirable to the team that works there now. And we're going to take that very seriously into consideration, considering traffic and all the other things that go into an ideal office location. The Dnipro office is staying in the same location. We are actually making it a little bit smaller just by closing a couple of the rooms that weren't previously used. So we're saving a little bit of money there, but it doesn't really affect the use of the office. And then in the Kharkiv location, we're going to be renovating the 5th floor of Building A. That's going to start in the next, probably in July, and take a couple of months to get done. So people that are on the 5th floor, I know you received an email yesterday about it, or maybe first thing this morning. You'll be moving out of the 5th floor, probably to the 6th floor or to other places, and then once the renovation is complete, then we'll be reorganizing teams to put them in, the most renovated and comfortable spaces. So our Charlotte office, as many of you know, the Charlotte office is in the same building as our client Xenial, but the problem from our perspective is Xenial is moving. They're moving to a new building that's being built across the parking lot, and it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to have an office in one building and Xenial's in another building. The point of the office was to have some people moving back and forth and potentially sharing some space. But if we're in a separate building, that's never going to happen. So we have that office available for sublease right now. And if we find someone to take it over, then we'll be closing it. Right now, it's there. It's fully functional. It's just not staffed, but it has internet access and everything is available. So if people do go on business trips, it is useful in the short term. You're able to get in and use it if needed. So this is the chart of our growth for the last 2 years. As you can see, since May of 2017, we had a lot of growth. Things then tapered off in the last 3 or 4 months. But you can also see from the chart that we are still a larger company than we were 2 years ago. So this is the nature of business. When you have opportunities, if you're set up well, you can take advantage of the opportunities and grow. And then sometimes things go the other direction. Sometimes, clients stop projects. And this doesn't just happen to us. It happens to large companies and to small companies. So from our perspective, we're all growing leads to a lot of opportunities for everyone. And we don't want to turn down the opportunity to grow, but we have to understand that there is a risk that goes along with it if things turn around. So what are we doing to mitigate those risks going forward? Business development is one of the large things that we're doing. We're trying to start, and we are starting new projects and looking for other ways that we can redeploy resources in case projects do cut back. We're also working more closely with our clients to understand their financial situation and, in some cases ask for prepayment if the client is not funded in the way that we feel secure. And we're also going to be much more picky about the types of clients that we'll be working with in the future. The ideal client for us is a company that is a technical company or a tech-focused company that has the capacity to take on 10 or more full-time people from DevPro and keep them working on an ongoing basis. We're not looking for companies that can do 2 or 3 people. We're not looking for projects that last 6 months. We're looking for projects that may start with 5 people, but then go to 10, and then eventually to 15, eventually to 20. Ideally, we'd be a 500-person company with 10 clients of 50 people each, but that's just not the reality of how business works. Some clients grow more than expected. Other clients never reach their potential. The reality is we're going to be more like a company with 2 large clients, and then some smaller ones of the 10 to 20 range. And then over time, those 10 to 20 hopefully will grow a little bit. And the distribution between our clients will be more healthy. Our top client might be 30 or 40% of the overall, and then the rest of the clients will make up the rest. So that's our goal. I want to congratulate everyone that received a promotion over the last 6 months. These are the 6 people here, so congratulations, everyone. And then as well, congratulate the 32 people that increased their professional level. Creating the career path growth for people, finding opportunities, all that happens when the company is growing. There's new opportunities that are created. And we're not looking to stay at the same level that we are now. We're around 320, 330 people right now. While nothing is for sure, I expect by the end of the year, we'll be over 400 people. And then by the end of next year, we could be back to where we were before in the 500 person range. DevPro sponsors a number of events, and we encourage our people to present at those events. It's a great way to get our brand out. It is a way to give back to the community. I want to thank these 8 people that spoke at our events. We also, we bring in speakers from different countries and around Ukraine, and we get a lot of positive feedback on the organization of our events and the content. So it really is a part of our marketing and branding, and I think we should be very proud of the work the team has done there and everyone that's contributed. We're also trying to get our brand out in different ways, posting articles and blog posts. So these are the people that have done that over the last 6 months. If you're interested in participating in that, we can provide assistance. Reach out to the PR team, and we'll see what we can do. So hopefully people will be happy to know that the summer party has been rescheduled. When things turned around in the last few weeks or a month with our clients, it gave us the confidence to do things like renovate the office and to continue to improve the working conditions here, but also to put on the summer party. So mark your calendars. It'll be July 27th. If you haven't received a notice of it yet, it'll be going out in the next week or so. We're going to be inviting some of our clients. I don't know how many will be able to attend, but Zach, who was the life of the party last year from the Xenial team, one of the architects from Xenial, Chris invited him. It was after several drinks, but Chris sent him a text saying, Zach, I guess you're going to be coming to the party in July. So look forward to having him here. So let's review our goals for 2019 and where we are in those goals. Okay, so as we talked about before, expanding the sales and marketing activities, that's business development. We've been working on, I actually just reviewed a final version of a brand new presentation that we're sending out to a potential client, a very interesting potential client. Andrew Kalinowski has been helping us with that. It helps us, this presentation is something we'll be using over and over again to market DevPro and our value proposition. We're also working on branding to help have our brand represent and convey who we are. We hired a branding agency to do that, and that's in progress right now. And I think we've done a pretty good job over the last couple months in starting new clients. We have a couple of them that we talked about, and we have some serious prospects that are coming up. So things are going well in that direction. So one of the key things, and the feedback we get from clients is, we sit, 6,000, 10,000 kilometers away from the client. We don't always understand what the client does exactly because we don't have the same experience as their clients have. So we're taking steps to overcome that. One example of that is we brought Corinna and Cam from SalesLoft. They came and they spoke at our PMCon, and they also held a workshop for DevPro PMs and BAs to help us understand and really understand their perspective and how they do things and what's important to them as clients, but also to help train us, just on the business domain and being aware of how things are done in the U.S. by professional software development companies. I think SalesLoft really, in general, does a great job. That's a growing account for us. I think we have around 13 people right now working on that account, and we expect further growth from that in the future. Another thing we did is we opened the coffee point in the subway station. 93 of our contractors worked 2-hour shifts there. It was a great way to understand the product that we're building, and we received a lot of feedback, bug reports, and suggestions for improvements. I think the people that did get a chance to do that really have a better feeling for, what it is they're building. You're not just working on some discrete set of code, but something that people use, and it makes a difference. And an example of how it makes a difference, when we had the Coffee Point open, it was the highest grossing location for Coffee Man in all of Kharkiv. And I think they have 20 or more locations. So while we think it's because they had a POS there, and they don't have POSs in other locations, they're not quite convinced, but there is an opportunity coming up. We are talking actually to Xenial about becoming a dealer for the POS in Ukraine as a way to help them refine the product so that it can be sold in other parts of Europe. They have dealers in other parts of Europe that are interested in selling the Xenial POS. So we would be the first dealer because we're able to, get the product out there, learn what's needed to be adjusted for these types of businesses, mostly around taxation and currencies and things like that. Once that's ready, it might be sold in other parts of Europe. So that's an interesting forward-looking opportunity. Okay, so professional development. We talked about the two things that we've done already is English classes. We had native English speakers come and try to work with us to help us understand the nuance of communication with native English speakers. And also just encourage speaking up. Some of the feedback we get is, especially some of the newer developers, they don't feel comfortable talking to our clients. And if you're on a call with a client and no one says anything, it makes it sound like we don't know what we're doing. So that's an important part of what we're trying to train at DevPro is how to communicate with clients and both their developers and their managers. So we've also, show me where this is. One second. Okay, so we have a procedure for individual career path planning. We started that career path planning for PMs, as well as Konstantin is doing that on Invenium, and Yegor is doing that for the Xenial BA team. We're trying to, we're really piloting it right now on the best way to help people with the career path planning. We're also working on raising awareness around information security. Sergey Marchenko handled a tech talk about security education, and we're going to look at in the future some online courses that in the same area. So initiatives to attract new talent. So the DevPro has had a lot of success around the Flow courses, both for DevOps and .NET, which we've done. We've also done Angular Flow and other types of Flow courses. These are free courses that we offer to the community. People that work at other companies, they come in the evenings. Usually it takes for about 2 weeks. In the evenings, a couple hours each evening. The idea is to train other people and, of course, raise awareness of DevPro. And while if we have 10 people attend a course at the beginning, none of them might be interested in joining DevPro, but by the end, they get to know our culture, they get to know how we operate, and they're then able to evaluate us more favorably. And many times, 2 of the 10 people will be interested in joining us full time. Internal processes. So we are working with a company called Time Live. They're actually writing a Jira integration right now. We expect to receive the version from them in July, and then we're going to start testing it. The goal is to simplify our time tracking process. And we've also worked on our, or improving our procurement and inventory processes to make things more streamlined. This is an ongoing process. We'll continue to do it over time. We've also been evaluating a new HR management system. We haven't been able to find a system that does all the things that we need. We're going to continue to look and also reach out to other companies, people we know at other companies, to find the systems they use and what they think about them. So it is something that's still being evaluated of what kind of HR management system to use. Office infrastructure. As I mentioned, we will be renovating the fifth floor of Building A, and we're also on an ongoing process improving the network stability. There's a very significant piece of hardware that I understand that we're in the process of acquiring to improve that stability. And it's always an ongoing process to make sure things are working properly, and we continue to invest in that. So this is a long-term goal, something we've been working on over the last 2 quarters. We're going to continue to work on it, and we're seeing some progress. I want to encourage the people involved in this to continue to work on it, and we hope by the end of the year this is something we can check off as having been completed successfully. Once again, this is our DevPro's mission statement. Something that we're trying to integrate into our marketing and our branding, and then our core values: communication, openness, reliability, and education. Something that we look at whenever we're looking at our goals and how to implement any new policies and any changes that we have. So QA, a number of questions have come up. Most of these questions were asked, most of the questions overall were asked previously, but we do have some new ones that came up. So we'll go through each of them, and I'll try to answer them as best I can. Then I'll pass it over to the rest of the management to answer questions that are appropriate for them to answer. Okay, how do we search for new clients, and what type of clients are we looking for? So business development, as we talked about, is a key to the future of DevPro. We want to try to get a more balanced group of clients. The primary way will be outbound telemarketing. We've been working on emails and in-mails through LinkedIn, and we found only limited success. We think that appointment setting calls would be a good way, next thing to try. We're also talking about holding some webinars and potentially some events, maybe in Silicon Valley, inviting appropriate types of clients to those events. The type of client we're looking for is either a established company that has an ongoing business, which is a type like Xenial, or a funded startup that has money in the bank, as opposed to a pure startup. So a company that can do, has a capacity to have projects for 10 or more full-time people. That's what we look at. While we'd love to have projects of 50 people, it takes a long time to get to that point. So we start with 5 or 10 and then potentially grow. That's a great way to, build trust with the client and then, grow over time. So are we going to introduce a policy or something to limit a percentage of people working for one client at DevPro, not to be dependent on one client? That's not something that we're going to work on. The reason is that while I agree that having a diverse range of clients is important, you can't pick and choose and say, I'm only going to have this client or that client. You have to find clients that are willing to work with you, and clients have different needs. Some want to grow, and if they want to grow, we have a choice. We can either grow with them, or we could say, no, we're not going to grow with you. And then they find another vendor. They find another way to get the work done. So what's the risk associated with them finding another vendor? Well, if we're in Ukraine and the client is in the US somewhere, and they pick another vendor in India or in Brazil, Now we have, 3 different languages, we have 3 different time zones. It becomes a bigger communication challenge. It also becomes a challenge related to, the decision-making. The client may want to do it one way, we have another idea, and the other vendor has a third idea. So now we're spending a lot of time negotiating on technical decisions. Which way should things be done technically, or, just it becomes a mess. So the important thing from our perspective is to find clients that are stable, that have the ability to pay, and if they want to grow, then we will grow with those clients. But at the same time, we want to grow with other clients as well to keep the percentages in line. We don't plan to set any kind of limit on one way or the other. So question 3, what are you going to do to increase people's trust in the company after a series of layoffs? Businesses grow and contract. That's part of the nature of business in general, but that's also the nature of outsourced software development, which is the business that we're in. We have, larger companies have layoffs and smaller companies have layoffs as well. It's not something that's unique to DevPro. I do have a problem with the premise of the question that somehow we broke the trust of people that work for us. We have an obligation to people, and we worked very hard during these layoffs to meet that obligation. And what that means is we tell people that no one is going to be laid off without 30 days notice. So you can work for 30 days and get paid for 30 days, and you will be paid for all your unused rest days. We did that 100%, through all these layoffs, and that came to a great cost to the company, but that's our obligation to you, and that's what we fulfilled. We're aware of other situations in other companies, even much larger companies, where they had a layoff and they decided not to pay people for their rest days, and that I would consider a breach of trust. But I do not think that what we did during the tough times that we had was a breach of trust. And as an example to back that up, when things turned around with our clients, we went back to 3 people that had left, and we offered them jobs again, and those three people came back. And also there were 21 people who were given layoff notices, but when things turned around, we went back to them and said, we want to cancel the layoff notice and have you continue with us. And those 21 people are continuing with us. So, we work really hard in this area. And while there are things that we want to always do to increase people's trust, I feel like we did everything we can not to breach trust in the beginning, and we will continue to operate in that way in the future. Number 4, is there planning for any layoffs in the nearest time? No, there is no plans of layoffs. In fact, we are growing. We have 18 open positions right now, and I'm aware of about 10 to 20 other positions that I expect to be open in the next 30 days based on existing client needs as well as new clients. So there's a lot of positive things happening to get us back on track. Next part of this question, can the company guarantee the employment of specialists in the next 6 months? Just to be clear, everyone here is a private entrepreneur. We're not employees, so that's why we put employment in quotes. But the difficulty is, the arrangement that we have is people agree to work and we agree to pay them. That's the basic part of the arrangement. The next part of the arrangement is we agree that no layoffs will happen with less than 30 days notice, but we don't ask the same from you. We only ask for 2 weeks from you. So there's a trade and it becomes imbalanced. So the next thing is, what if we offered 3 months of a guarantee? Are we going to ask you for a month and a half or 2 months or even 3 months of a guarantee? That's awfully tricky because it's hard to hold people to that guarantee. What if we offered 6 months of guarantee? Are we going to get 3 months of guarantee that no one's going to leave without 3 months notice to us? Probably not. It becomes really tricky. So we get out of balance the longer the commitment that we make. Instead, this is a business. Businesses grow and contract. We do all we can to not lay off people. We went for 6 years with minimal layoffs, but then we ran into a tough time, and I acknowledge that. And we're going to try to avoid that type of tough time in the future by diversifying our client base. But I will guarantee that anything that's in our policy, we will live up to. And that's the guarantee that we can make. So some of the old questions in view of layoffs: are the company changing its goals? The goals are something we set annually. The number one goal that we just reviewed is to improve our sales and marketing. That is something that we're doing. So we're not changing that goal, but we are putting more emphasis on that. Any plans to continue the growth? Yes, growth brings lots of opportunities and brings more stability. We are continuing to grow the company, and I don't see that changing anytime in the future. So with business development, I would say things are going quite well. We went through the new clients that we have. We're also, working on the appointment setting company. We have a new presentation about DevPro for new clients. A lot of positive things are happening. We're going to look at DNEPro and Kiev for locations for new projects. Depends on the recruiting capacity, the types of skills needed. But I do think that we will have some new projects where at least some of the team members will be in those locations in the future. Number 8, I answered that question previously about the office. Number 9, the L1 visas or visas we were looking at in the past, that's not something that we're going to be able to support right now. But H1B visas, we do have 2 people that receive those visas, Alina Loy and Alexi Dion, or they received a positive response. The actual visa won't come until October, assuming everything continues as expected. We probably will look next year at applying for H1Bs for additional people. And those are ongoing conversations we'll have with our clients about their needs. So I do think there will be opportunity for the H1B visas going forward. This question's not 100% clear to me, but if I read it the way it's written, somehow the layoffs with Securrency were actually planned and known ahead of time. Up until literally the night before the layoffs were announced, we did not know that it was going to happen. There were ongoing conversations, of which I was a part of, with investors and people that were, that sounded serious, that sounded like they were looking to invest in the very short term to keep things going at the same size. Those opportunities did not pan out, unfortunately. And what Dan said, which is something that I agree with, if we approach our business as something that it's not going to work and it's something that's going to fail, then it will fail. We have to be, have to push hard. We have to drive. We have to be positive. And part of that is to, keep growing and keep trying to build the software that we think our clients will need and want to pay for. And, it takes resources to do that. So there was no long-term plan to do the layoffs. The layoffs we hoped that we'd be able to avoid them up until the very last minute. And it only happened once we knew it was unavoidable. Because of the layoffs, the company size got to a reasonable level, their expenditures got to a reasonable level, and that is what's helped them, find WisdomTree as an investor. If they were spending as much money as they were before the layoffs, WisdomTree would not have been interested. So it was an unfortunate situation, but to get the company to the right size in order to grow again and to get investment, it's something that had to happen. So what can the teams do to help and to be involved? We actually occasionally do get referrals. People that you may have worked with in the past at different companies may reach out to you and say, hey, I saw you left XYZ company. Where are you now? We have a project. If you get those type of opportunities, let us know. Pass them along to Anna Chuchina or myself. But in general, the best thing that we can do is actually do a good job. If we do a good job and our customers are successful, that leads to more business with those customers. It also leads to referrals, and having a client tell one of their colleagues at a different company that DevPro does a good job, that's 10 times better than us telling that potential client that we do a good job. So I'm going to pass this over to Maxim now. Thank you, everyone, and we'll have other people answer questions.
Thank you, Jeff. So we have several questions for me, Galina, and Nick. The first one is Xenial. It's actually an old question. Xenial is actively reducing the cost. It actually happened just, the question was asked right after the plans were announced, and actually by the now you already know the plans. The company cannot really keep all people if cuts are deep, so we have to plan layoffs, and this is what we have done. But good that Xenial was able to resolve this internally. And now we do not talk about any future layoffs, but again, going back to the question, so we would have to lay off some people. We would be able to look for some opportunities for some of the people, but we will not be able to keep everyone in the company, in the team. One thing I would also add here is Xenial's contract is a little bit different in terms that it has a contractual obligations for Xenial to not be able to ramp down the whole team in one day. They have to do it in phases, which helps us in some way, but also helps Xenial if for some reason we decide we don't want to work with Xenial, that also protects them. So it's mutual protection. Next one. About code of conduct. What should you do if your manager, or not only manager, does not follow the code of conduct? First of all, wanted to say a big thank you for people who support code of conduct. Code of conduct is not a policy it's not a thing that can work as a policy. We cannot just say, from tomorrow, code of conduct is a rule. This is a thing that has to be part of a culture, has to be supported by the people. And for all people who think about it, who wants to see it implemented, I want to say a big thank you. But what you do when you see the code of conduct is violated, you definitely have to bring your attention to this case. If you feel like you cannot openly and clearly say to me or some other manager that the code of conduct is being violated, we have anonymous form. It's truly anonymous, where you can go and submit this, the defects or what you have seen or so, and we will deal with that. But again, thank you for supporting it. Next one, business trips. Xenial SciComm, but only not Xenial SciComm. So business trips, they actually come, majority of business trips, like 98% of business trips come from the budget of a client. And they're expensive. And the clients wants to use this money wisely and effectively. So this is when a client allocates budget, we as a management team has to think wisely about who do we send, why do we send this or that person, for how long, what goals do we set up for this person when people go inside. So like, for example, if we start a new project or start a new initiative, it does make sense for a BAs and maybe a PM to go on the side. When we have a conversation with a client about technical decisions, something that requires collaboration with a group of people in a client team, this is when it makes sense to have a development leads go and spend time with technical people over there. When we, in case of Xenial, for example, when we go live with some client and we need extensive testing or testing on site, this is when it makes sense to have a QAs go and spend time there. We then are being measured by a client on how effectively we spend their money. And when our people go there, our client always wants to see us working very hard, using every possible minute and hour to gain as much information as possible about the business, about specific of a client, to be able to learn and bring this knowledge here and share this knowledge with the people. So it's not an easy choice, and it's because it's expensive, it's not always possible that every person from the team can go to visit a client. And sometimes for a client, it's much cheaper if a person from a client's team come here, because here they can talk to much more people like Chris Sifkin. When he arrives here, he can talk to almost every person on the team. And then Donny from security comes here, he can talk to every member of the team. It will be hugely expensive if we would try to do it otherwise. Next one, that's it for Sergey.
This question has been already covered by Jeff. The only thing that I can add that once we implement TimeLive, contractors will post reports to Jira's, and TimeLive will grab this data in background to related activities as well as PTOs and absences due to illnesses have to be posted to TimeLive, not Jira. So contractors will use two tools, but there will be no need to post the same report twice. That's all.
You can switch to next topic. Question.
Hockey office was covered by Jeff as well. The only thing that I can say that we had such plans to move to another building, but this is not the case at the moment. We decided to invest into the current office improvements.
So there is also a number of questions to me, and let's go through them. The first one is about the terms of contracts termination. Here, let me explain that if we terminate the agreement due to poor performance, we give 2 weeks notice. If we terminate the contract due to layoff, then we as a company give 1 month's notice. And definitely we pay unused rest days in this case. We would pay rest days also in the first case when we are not happy about the performance. The only exception would be people on the probationary period who don't pass them in the probationary period. So then there is one part of this question. How many people we keep on the bench? Unfortunately, we are not able to support a very big bench, and it also depends on the fact that we can't always predict the needs of our clients that will be generated by business development, and that's why it's hard to predict what exactly skills will be required. And then there is a part of the question which I'm not sure I understand. Is the payment paid ahead for 1 month or more? I think it relates also to layoff situation. And there are cases when we, as a company, we can give a choice to a person. The person may either work for a month and be paid for a month, or don't work at all immediately and take 2 weeks payment instead. So in this case, the person can take this money paid ahead and leave and don't work out. It's not always possible to give such a choice because sometimes the work of the person is really required at the project. So the next question is about opportunity to take rest days at own expense, which is an unpaid leave. And at our company, we don't have such opportunity. As you know, we have absence policy, and we believe that all needs and all cases when you need to be absent are covered. If you want to have rest, you have rest days. If you have some event like childbirth or wedding or death of your close relative, there are family leaves that you can take, and there is absence due to illness when you're ill, and extraordinary medical leave when you're seriously ill or something like long-term happened to you. So we don't think that we think that everything is covered. If you think that you have a case which is very serious and valid and you require unpaid leave, and it's not because you want to go for a month to Thailand, but you really have a serious reason and it's not covered, please raise this question with your manager as exceptional case, and we will look at your case individually. So the next question is asked from time to time if we are going to increase the number of absence due to illness days. No, we don't have such a plan. We analyze this question from time to time, and at this point, we think that our absence policy is fair and competitive. Then the next question is about medical insurance and why doesn't health insurance insurance doesn't cover chronic diseases treatment, as they are also important. So the question is not actually accurate because we have some coverage of chronic diseases treatment. According to our contract with medical insurance company, there are some insured events related to chronic diseases, which can be covered up to 14 days course. So I really ensure the person who asked this question to come to HR and clarify how this works, because maybe you are not getting what you have rights to get. So there are some cases, there are some exceptions. HR will help to validate and help you check, but in general, there is some limited coverage of chronic diseases treatment, both in a remission stage and in the stage when your disease is in the aggravation stage. So then the next question is about training reimbursement, and also not exactly accurate question, because it states that some teams are not eligible for this benefit. This is not true. Yeah, this is we don't have teams who are not eligible to apply for reimbursement of the training. This is true that this benefit only covers training which is related to your project needs and your specialization. And we believe that this is fair. We support education, but we are working here together. And if this is valuable for you and the work you are doing, then you can apply for reimbursement. If it's just your hobby, then this is your personal desire and your personal responsibility to invest into this. Okay, and then another question is about death per charity. If we do it only for St. Nicholas Day. No, we don't do it only for St. Nicholas Day, and this year we organized the charity committee because we don't want to make all the decisions on how to spend the charity money. We want our people to be involved, and we want to contribute into initiatives which are really important for exactly our contractors. So probably you saw recently there was email from PR team reporting on how the funds on charity are being spent, and you could see there that we still have some amount that can be allocated to different projects. If you want to contribute proactively, I encourage you to join our charity committee and help us drive something forward. So this is all from my questions, and the last one is...
Yeah, Nick is absent today. He actually asked me to answer this question. You have seen that the National Bank revoked the rule which was obligatory to sell funds in foreign currency as soon as they arrive to your account, which does not actually mean that now you can convert these funds into cash in US dollars. The procedure actually stays the same. If you want to do something with this money, you still have to sell them, convert to hryvnia, and on this end you can pay with hryvnia internally or convert hryvnia to cash and then buy US dollars if you want. So it's actually does not change in a way how you can operate with this money. But what also it may mean that some people may want to say, I don't want to sell all my US dollars right now. I will sell 10 tomorrow, 50 in 2 weeks, 40 in 3 weeks, which for a company of our size may turn into a huge overhead. So this is not what we're looking to do, because the management of this overhead, you cannot just go to the bank online and sell your currency. Even though we communicate with PUMB about such abilities, there is no such ability right now. It has to be done when you go to accountant and ask them. It's not possible, and it's not practical. So bottom line, you still cannot get or convert US dollars into cash. You still have to use the same procedure as before. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks everyone. Appreciate you taking the time to listen. We do take your questions seriously. And don't feel like you have to wait until the next webinar. If you have questions, something that's bothering you, reach out to us either directly or anonymously. And if something is urgent, we will make sure we address it right away. Otherwise, we'll collect questions for the next time. Thank you.